Talking to a computer.
Welcome everyone to this week's edition of our Stock Market Watch. Today I have with me the Managing Director of Afrifocus Securities. We'll be interviewing him today, Eugene Chemaly. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Warren, for the invite.
So just a quick disclaimer, please note that the views and opinions given in this chat are the views of the individual interviewed and not necessarily the views of Afrifocus, and also be aware that investing in the stock market can be risky. So let's get on to it. Eugene, thanks for joining us again today. If you could please just tell us a little bit about yourself and your history on the stock markets.
Thanks, Warren. I've been involved in the financial market since 1996 with various asset managers and with the stockbroker Afrifocus Securities. Prior to that, I was an engineer running around plants wearing a hard hat and safety boots. And I think the interest in markets came from the fact that every day is an absolute adventure on markets. Every day is different, and you learn, and you're continuously learning. You're learning about valuation techniques, asset allocation, and yeah. So for me, that's the interest, that you can actually not create much in terms of as an output engineer, but in terms of wealth creation to your clients. You know, the opportunities are phenomenal on stock markets, and I think that's the major interest that I've had in this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you used to be an analyst before.
I was a quantitative analyst. So I started out with UAL Merchant Bank in 1996. And after that, I joined Standard Corporate and Merchant Bank. That became Stanlip. And then subsequent after that, I've been involved with Afrifocus.
Sure.
So it's been quite a nice long career in the industry that I've really appreciated.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us today and sharing your years of experience and wisdom.
More than welcome.
So if we could just get on to talking about last week, was there anything that stood out for you?
I think the highlight was this continuous chip shortage that's coming through, that is impacting the vehicle industry. And where we are seeing that, for example, General Motors announced that they're cutting production by 200,000 cars. And I think in that environment, obviously demand for catalytic converters declines, and the impact on the platinum stocks was seen immediately. So those stocks have derated substantially. I just think the concern going forward is the fact that the chip shortage seems to be can be there for at least another 12 months. And then obviously the electrical vehicle starts becoming the dominant play. By 2025, I think a large portion of new car production will be electrical vehicles, and there's no use of platinum in that particular industry. So I think just be careful that platinum might be an early sunset industry.
Sure.
So I think that's just a concern in the background.
Okay.
Highlighting.
It's been quite an interesting ride with the platinum price this year. It started off very well, shooting the lights out, and then all of a sudden it just turned around.
Yep.
As you say, quite amazing, like an upside down V shape. Okay, so thank you for that. Just moving on, what is your JSE listed large company pick and why?
I was lucky. I got Aspen when nobody wanted the stock below 100 Rand.
Aspen.
Yes, and I think the benefit of buying a good company at depressed multiples. So I think at its lowest, Aspen was trading on 5 times forward earnings. It's gone to 15 times. Is that the value created from buying off the low in a good company that's gone through a temporary bad patch can be phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I see there is a bid for the potential bid for the API business, and hopefully that creates another catalyst to the upside.
Sure. Yeah, we've seen that quite a few times when the company's not looking so good, and things are going.
And that happens more often than we think.
Yeah, that's
we've seen Steinhoff, which is most likely a bad example, but we've seen Aspen, we've seen the likes of Liberty, where there was a takeout of minorities at 60 Rand. We've seen Sasol down to in the 20s, and then the oil price recovered. We've seen Impala. When debt was a problem, and then the commodity cycle turned in favor, and the stock went up 10 times from the bottom. So if you've got the guts of actually buying in the bottom, and I think that is the trick here, and the conviction of holding, and the company recovers, or the cycle goes in favor, the upside can be phenomenal.
ArcelorMittal as well.
ArcelorMittal, yeah, and I think ArcelorMittal, if you look at ArcelorMittal longer term, was one of the best performers in the market, because there were two assets in ArcelorMittal that got unbundled: Kumba Iron Ore plus Exxaro. So if you look at the three entities that got unbundled from ArcelorMittal, the value creation in that company was great.
Absolutely, yeah. Unbundling is certainly one of the sources of wealth creation on the stock market. Well, thanks for that. And just looking at maybe a smaller company listed on the JSE, is there anything that you like?
I've been buying Clientele Life. I've got a share to share with the audience here. I'm
going to share the screen here.
We can just share the screen, Warren.
We can just show a little bit of a chart of Clientele Life.
Yeah, so basically in the top, on the right-hand side, we've got the share chart, or the share price, the black line. And below that is a very simple PE ratio. And you can see you buy the share when the PE is below 10, and you sell the share when the PE is above 15 times. They recently announced 110 cents dividend on a 10 Rand 50 stock. So the dividend yield over 10%. Last day to trade, and that is the 20th of September. And we think that dividend is actually sustainable. We think we're going through the bottom of the COVID disaster, and as vaccines start rolling out, hopefully the claims on this business starts reducing and the share price starts recovering. The other sort of negative on the stock is that the JSE could actually lose it. So you've got a very large controlling shareholder that could actually delist this company, and maybe the delisting price could be much higher than the current 10 Rand 50. So I do like the share, and I've been accumulating it at these levels.
Fantastic, that's great. And just for those that don't really know about Clientele Life, it's an insurance company, right?
It's a life insurer, focusing very much on the funeral market. Okay. And obviously with COVID, those claims have increased. And I think the vaccine rollout is actually taking shape quite nicely. And hopefully that this disaster that's hit this country and hit the world starts falling away over the next couple of months. So looking forward to the recovery and at least the share price.
Brilliant, thank you. So that's Clientele Life for your small cap pick. Thank you for that. Then just looking in the offshore markets, Afrifocus does offer a solution for clients that actually want to invest offshore. And we've got access to companies listed all over the world: the US, Canada, Europe, Japan, Hong Kong, China, Australia, etc. What would be your pick?
Yeah, I've been a big fan of the Chinese stocks to my detriment, but I've accumulated stocks in a company called NIO. So NIO is an electrical vehicle manufacturer in China, focusing very much on the high end of electrical vehicles. So they're competing with the likes of Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, and not the Toyotas and the VWs. The one benefit of NIO is the battery swap technology. So where other EVs have got the charging option, and that takes a couple of hours to fully charge the battery. NIO can actually swap the battery within 3 minutes. Sure. So they're building infrastructure all over China, and they've just announced their entry into Norway. So Norway is one of the countries that embrace clean energy. Okay. So those sales should start coming through in September, and hopefully early New Year they'll be entering the Netherlands, Germany, and then there's talk of the UK after that. So you've got a Chinese brand that's expanding globally, most likely in the right industry, which is electrical vehicles. I think there will be competition with the likes of Tesla, but I think a lot of the old legacy car makers, the ICE engines, the internal combustion engines, are so far behind that they most probably will not be able to catch up to the market leaders, which in this case is NIO and Tesla. So I think a lot of value will be created in the stock over the next 5 years. Wow. And once again, I think this company came out of Tencent. It was one of the many unicorns that Tencent has got in its portfolio.
Interesting.
So that's where I actually found it.
Oh wow! So, yeah, that's a good way of finding stocks. What Tencent does.
See what Tencent does, see what they buy, and then when they list those stocks, just follow that.
Brilliant. That makes a lot of sense.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. So if you're driving your NIO car and your battery runs dead, you don't have to charge it. You can
there are two options. One is the call-out option, in which the service truck will come to you and actually charge the battery. And the second one is obviously there will be charge stations all over the planet, hopefully going forward, and you'll just drive into that and charge your car. And then the next industry that NEO is involved in is the autonomous taxis. So with a company called Mobileye, they've been testing this in Israel, and it looks like they're going to go live with autonomous taxis very soon.
Wow.
And that's basically calling a taxi that hasn't got a driver in it and taking you somewhere. I think good luck on the South African roads with that, but maybe in the rest of the world it will work.
Amazing, eh? Sure. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think it's an exciting industry to be in.
Very exciting. Changing the world, really. Eh?
Literally.
And they're really competing with Tesla. It's like the Chinese equivalent of
it is
Tesla.
a Tesla. It is a Chinese equivalent. And I think there have been many sort of Chinese comparatives to American firms, and very few have succeeded. But I think this could be one that does succeed. So we've seen the Chinese Netflix equivalent. We've seen the Chinese Google equivalent that have never really taken off. But hopefully this is one that actually can do it.
Can do it. Let's hope so. Thanks, Eugene. And then just from a sort of a short-term trading pick for those of our clients who like to punt single stock futures or CFDs
or warrants.
Or warrants.
Yeah, I bought some call warrants on Naspers.
Naspers.
So the NPN SBI warrant expires in February next year. So trading at under 10 cent warrant. I've bought a couple of those. Hope that there's a bit of a bounce in Naspers, or rather than 10 cent and then in Naspers, and we can make some cash on that. So let's see how that goes.
Wow, and that's listed on the JSE.
That's listed on the JSE. So far out of the money with that trade.
Brilliant. Yeah, I guess with all the news out of China and the Chinese government starting to crack down on the large tech companies like Tencent and Alibaba, that's been quite negative for the price of Naspers and Process. But you think that might have possibly reached a bit of a bottom? Yeah.
Nobody knows. Time will tell.
Sure.
And once again, I think if you play the warrant market, make sure not all your wealth goes into that.
Absolutely.
It must be a very small portion of your wealth that gets risk on those sort of trades.
Yeah, because they're very risky.
They're very risky.
Those instruments.
Yeah.
Brilliant, thanks. And then just a general question. Well, in your vast experience on the markets, what would you say is the best way to make money on the stock market?
I think there are a couple of elements. The one being time. So time results in earnings growth, in dividend flow, and wealth gets created that way. The second one is buying a good company at depressed multiples and holding it. And hopefully the earnings growth comes through, the PE re-rates, you get dividend flow, and your wealth gets created that way. At Afrifocus, we've got a client that bought 3 million rands worth of cash built at 2 rand a share in the year 2002.
Sure.
Last year, they took about 20 million rand in dividends just out of that investment. And I think that trade most probably amplifies what I just said. You bought a good company at depressed multiples, the PE has re-rated over the years, you've had earnings growth, and you've had phenomenal dividend growth, and I think that's the way that big money gets made on the stock market.
Yeah.
It doesn't get made at buying stocks at the top, but it does get made in buying when nobody else wants the stock. So I think one thing to look at continuously are the new lows on the JSE. Why are shares forming new lows? And are there opportunities in those new lows? So are good companies being sold off, most likely for company-specific reasons? So there's an event, be it too much debt, be it bad management, be it corruption, as we've seen on the JSE over the past couple of years. And then hopefully those companies can turn around and recover.
Yeah.
And I think that's where your real wealth gets created.
Absolutely. And I think also when a company unbundles.
When companies unbundle, and I think we mentioned the ArcelorMittal case. In Naspers, we saw the unbundling of multi-choice recently. And then looking at AVI, so AVI's got a stake in Spitz, or their own Spitz, which is a clothing brand. And that business on its own is actually a listable business. We saw Tiger Brands many years ago unbundle Oceana. And I think interesting that event, you do get the benefit of an unlisted asset that comes onto the market, that gets a multiple associated with it, and wealth gets created. I've been buying a company called Net1 UPS. It's not a very good business, but they've got a stake in an unlisted company called Mobikwik in India, which is a electronics payment system. And that has filed for IPO in early new year on the Indian Stock Exchange. So Net1 owns 12.5% of Mobikwik, and they're estimating that the value unlock, or that listing market cap, should be $1 billion.
Sure.
Now, that 12.5% is just marginally less than the market cap of Net1.
Wow.
So hopefully we can actually get some value unlock once that lists and the Net1 share price re-rates. So
Net1, brilliant.
Okay, there's a tip.
Thank you so much. That's a very interesting one. I didn't know about that one. Thanks, Eugene. So if people want to contact you, what would be the best way?
Well, I'm at Afrifocus. Warren is the easiest contact to get through to me.
Thank you.
Yeah, so be in contact with Warren, and he can just relay information to me, and we can take it from there.
Fantastic. If you need to get hold of me, my email address is warrens@afrifocus.co.za. And then, yeah, if you found this video interesting, helpful, and useful, please forward it on to people that you may know. Thank you so much. Next week I will be away, so we might not have one of these videos for the next 2 weeks or so, but I'll certainly do another one when we get back. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed it, and pass it on to anyone you find it might interesting. And give us a call if you'd like some more information. We are here. We are real people. We don't have a call center. We don't have chatbots. We like to have that personal interaction with our clients, and we believe that's where we can add value. Yeah, thank you so much, and enjoy your week.